Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing well and you're ready for going back to classes. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about Robert Burns, or is also known as Rabbie Burns. So Robert Burns was a very famous Scottish poet. We celebrate his life and poetry on the 25th of January. I've wrote an article for the blog if you've had a chance to read that as well. So who is Robert Burns and why is he so famous in Scotland? Well, Robert Burns, as I said, was a poet and his poetry is still alive and well today and it's really famous. Importantly, Robert Burns did not write in English, he wrote in Scots, which, as I've also said before, is debated over whether or not it's a language in its own right or a dialect of English. Scots still exists today, and in my city here in Glasgow, many people speak Scots. However, the Scots spoken today is also very different to the Scots from Robert Burns' time. So let's have a look at how we celebrate Burns Night. So as I said, it's celebrated on the 25th of January. And I'll just tell you a little bit about when I was at school and what we did for preparations and also to celebrate on the day. So when I was at school, particularly in primary school, in the weeks leading up to 25th of January, we would learn how to recite Burns's poems. As I said, the Scots from 300 years ago is different to that today. So we would have to actually translate some of the words and learn how to pronounce them properly. So that would be some work leading up to Burns Night. We would learn, how to recite the poems and also the meaning in English as well. Of course, you can understand a lot of it, but there's some parts that are difficult, even for us who do speak Scots. So that's what we would do, and we'd also have competitions in primary school to see who could recite his poem the best. In primary school, we would celebrate the day by eating shortbread. Shortbread is a traditional Scottish biscuit or cookie. It's really delicious. And of course, we were only children in school, so we wouldn't drink whiskey, but we would drink something called Irn-Bru. Irn-Bru is a fizzy drink or soda produced here in Scotland. And of course, we would be encouraged to wear something tartan. Tartan is a print associated with Scotland. So now, when you're a bit older or with your family as well, a lot of people celebrate Burns Night with a traditional Scottish dinner. So again, people might wear their kilts or something else that's tartan representing the Scottish print. So what is the traditional Burns Night supper? That's what it's also called, a supper, which is just another word for dinner. But we don't say Burns dinner, we say Burns Night supper. So if you're having a starter, we probably have a traditional Scottish soup like CULLEN SKINK. CULLEN SKINK is a milk cream based soup with fish. Or you can have like a traditional Scottish broth, which is made from pulses and vegetables. Then for the main, it's haggis, NEEPS and TATTIES. So haggis, I've explained before, is a mix of oats, onions, sheep's heart and lung, and wrapped up in the sheep's stomach. I'm vegetarian, so I personally don't eat that, but you can get vegetarian haggis and it's very nice. NEEPS or turnips. We have them mashed, and tatty is potato. That's also mashed as well. And it could be served with some gravy on top. And then for dessert, as mentioned before, we might eat shortbread. However, a lot of people also eat another traditional Scottish dessert called CRANACHAN. CRANACHAN is absolutely delicious. It's made with whipped double cream, with fresh raspberries, honey, you can add some whiskey and nice toasted oats. So it's really delicious. And then of course a lot of people will, wash their meal down with a nice Scotch whiskey. Also on Burns Night, people will recite poems, and as before the haggis is served, there's a poem called Address to a Haggis. Not heard of Burns? Well, I guess you might have heard of the song Auld Lang Syne. It's very famous. People sing it at New Year's Eve, where not just in Scotland but elsewhere, and in America and in the US as well. So at midnight on New Year's Eve, we clasp our hands and sing Auld Lang Syne. You can have a look for it. And that's been a song written to the words of the traditional Burns poem. So Burns' spirit is still alive and well today, not only in Scotland but in other parts around the world. So this is how we celebrate in Scotland, and it's really fun, and it's nice to keep our traditions alive, and also the language Scots, or dialect if people call it, to keep that alive and, you know, be proud of our language and history. So that's Burns Night. I celebrated with my family the other night, and it was really fun. I had a great time, and we listened to some traditional Scottish music as well. So that's one in the calendar for us. And if you want to know more, of course, you can just research his name or the night. Okay, I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.